Well, we continue with some of our candidate discussions. Joining us in the studio today is the Calhoun County Treasurer, Christine Schauer, who is asking for you to return her to that post on Election Day in a couple of weeks. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning, Richard.
Thank you for your time today.
Well, thanks for inviting me on.
So let's talk a little bit about what led you to this post. I don't know that you have been entirely politically active as much as your husband maybe, but you certainly have been, and you've been in this role a while now.
Yeah. Well, yes, I've been on the periphery of political activity for 20 years now.
Right.
But 4 years ago, I decided to run for Calhoun County Treasurer. At that time, I had a few goals. Reducing the number of property tax foreclosures was one of those. And I followed through with that. We're down about 40% on foreclosures since 2012. Another area was to aggressively use the Calhoun County Land Bank Authority. Treasurer sits as chair of that authority, and we wanted to aggressively go after blight in neighborhoods by demolishing those blighted homes, which bring down property values, pose safety risks, and attract criminal activity in those neighborhoods. And we've taken down about 170 since 2013 across the county, and just got a $3.8 million grant to go ahead and take down a lot more countywide. The other thing I promised was to promote customer service, to find efficiencies, effectiveness in the office. Following a 32-year incumbent, there were many processes and things like that to update and bring into the 21st century. So that's what I've been doing. That's why I ran. And there's more to do in those realms. So I'm asking for another term.
When you talk about the blighted properties issue and the foreclosures issue and those things, you can talk about the progress that has been made. If we zoom out on that and look at the big picture of this issue, is this a huge chunk? Is there a lot more to do? What do you see there?
Well, of course, when you're living next door or down the street from one of those blighted properties, it feels like it takes forever for anyone to do anything about it. And I've talked to folks in that situation. Years ago, the property tax foreclosure auctions used to be run a little differently, and folks remember the days where someone could come in and buy one of these houses for just a couple $100 and then proceed to either strip it out further or, put rentals in there, put people in there, kind of a revolving door because they never did anything for them and never pay another penny of taxes. So that got interrupted when the land banks were created so that they would address these blighted properties that the market really wasn't addressing. And, we've done a lot, and this new grant is going to virtually be able to allow us to take down most everything that's currently in public ownership. But the pipeline continues.
Right.
We are seeing lower foreclosures, and, one would hope that eventually we'd get to the end of it. We will never, I think, be 100% there, but there's still progress to be made.
Calhoun County Treasurer Christine Schauer here. We'll take a short break and come back and talk more on this issue and more in just a moment on WBCK. We're here with the Calhoun County Treasurer Christine Schauer, who is asking for your vote on Election Day. The issue of blighted homes and that sort of thing is one on which you've continued to work, and obviously that's going to be the work of you or whoever it is that's going to be in this post. I was noticing on social media recently some folks I know in Kalamazoo County were lamenting the fact that they had blighted homes in their neighborhoods that have been standing for years, waiting. Do we have a long wait here in Calhoun County for stuff like that?
Well, we typically have a prioritized demolition list
Yeah.
at the land bank, but everything's dependent on funding, of course. And then some people see these homes and they're still in private ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's really nothing the land bank can do at that point. The city does have some remedies where they can get a demolition order through a court process. But again, they need the money to do it. So, I encourage people when they have something like that nearby to call my office. Let's determine what the tax status is, if it's likely to foreclose anytime soon. And then we can make notes about the neighbor's comments. And then when we do come to maybe facing foreclosure, and maybe someone's sitting in front of me asking for a hardship extension for that property, we have a little more information.
Yeah.
So it's important to not just sit home and complain, but let us know. I might not be able to do anything about it right away, but at least I'd have the information.
Yeah. And there are reasons, mind you, that houses in private ownership can't easily be taken away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We talked a little bit with your challenger who discussed some concerns about the connections that are being made with, for example, downtown properties being sold for low amounts that have been vacant for a period of time, and then concerns about future tax rolls and that sort of thing, and the role of the land bank in all of that. I'm curious about your thoughts about those things. You have an empty building. It's on the land bank rolls. The goal is then to try and get that building back into productive use, right?
Correct. I've heard some of those criticisms about selling buildings below market value, but everyone needs to remember how challenging and difficult these development projects are. If you find a developer willing to take them on, they're likely going to be investing millions of dollars. And the tools of the land bank allow us to sell it below market, but with strings attached. We layer over a development agreement that has benchmarks. We all know, we've heard people say, I think they should do this with this particular building, or I'd like to get this and do this. People have great intentions, great plans. Doesn't always follow through. They can't get it together. Usually it's the financing. So we've tied it together so if they don't meet these benchmarks, there's a way for it to come back to the land bank ownership so that we can try again with a new developer and it doesn't just sit there for another, 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And and then ultimately the goal is having it back on the tax roll. And sometimes tax incentives are used as part of the financing deal. But I think people need to take the long view on this. And obviously, if it's sitting vacant for 10 years, again, the private market isn't taking care of that.
Yeah.
And so we go ahead and use the land bank tools when appropriate.
We presume the long view to which you refer is complicated by what might be a traditional sort of setup. So if a building downtown is worth $100,000, let's say, trying to get a buyer at that rate when they know they have to put millions into it on the other side is a stumbling block. Is that true?
Exactly. If you've got a developer who's going to put millions of dollars into a building, and then at the end of that, it still doesn't appraise for the investment amount, you've got a gap there.
Yikes.
And, so you've got to have some developers, people who are willing to take some real risks.
Calhoun County Treasurer Christine Schauer is here. We're talking about her candidacy to be reelected to that post. She'd like to ask for your vote. We're discussing that now. Candidate interviews you've heard over the course of the last couple of weeks. Here's another one. Candidate for treasurer. She is the treasurer now, Christine Schauer. So, yeah, we understand the notion of your perspective, I think, on blighted homes and trying to get the land bank to push some things into development. What are other priorities you see here?
Well, as the county treasurer, I am charged with statutorily to be the custodian of all funds coming into the county. That means I'm the county's banker, the county's investment officer. I am a certified public funds investment manager. And some of my previous professional experience, I've worked in the financial services industry for John Hancock Financial, Parkstone Mutual Funds, and have previously been a licensed investment advisor. Let that license go long ago, but still have that perspective. I've worked hard to develop a investment portfolio for the county that first and foremost provides for the security of the dollars, but also maximizes any return we can get for our excess cash at the moment, and always keeping the bottom, an eye on the cash flow needs of the county. Following a 32-year incumbent, I found there were no written policies, procedures for the treasurer's office, so we've worked hard to get procedures written for all of the things we do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So if the person who has that in their head is not there that day, we can still get our work done. I've built a staff, a team really, and a culture where we want to go that extra mile for people and really delve into what can we do for this person over and above taking their money across the counter for their delinquent taxes.
From the perspective of the investment part of what you're doing, how has that been under your watch?
Well, municipalities are very limited in the investment instruments they're allowed to use. Agency bonds, such as your Fannies and Freddies.
Right.
Municipal bonds, school issues, city issues, drain issues, any of those kinds of things. CDs. But when you buy a CD, it has to be from a institution that's bricks and mortar in Michigan. We can do some commercial paper, money market, those kinds of, and some pooled investments. But, I can't be out there playing the stock market.
Right.
So I've methodically been building what I refer to and the industry refers to as a laddered portfolio. So we have staggered maturities. And as one matures, we invest in one maybe 5 years out. So that's kind of the philosophy I've taken. And, we're almost there with that portfolio, but it takes time.
So what is priority one then? If you're to return to the treasurer's office, you've probably been thinking about some of the things that you'd like to continue to push for or maybe new initiatives.
Well, we will absolutely continue to try to help folks avoid tax foreclosure. We still have the tool of the Step Forward program. For how much longer, no one knows. It's till the pot of money runs out at the state level. So we will still continue working on hardship extensions, working on payment plans. We're very hopeful the legislature will restore our ability to give a 6% down from an 18% payment plan multi-year to folks. So I've been told by my association that that's probably going to happen in the lame duck session. But we shall see.
Right.
And so those things, plus continuing to find efficiencies in my office and work closely with the county board and with county administration towards, cooperative and money-saving options for the county.
Is the future financial picture the biggest challenge that you see here, or is it something else?
I think it probably is. Each year we see just a slight reduction in our budget directives at the county level. We do what we can, and through our foreclosure fund and some of the fees that we collect, we're able to at least keep our office going and do these foreclosure efforts and keep going with that. So,
all right. Well, Christine Schauer is the Calhoun County Treasurer. She'd like to continue to be. We appreciate the time you've given us to talk about that.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity, Richard.
All right. We'll talk again soon.